So last night we held our annual general meeting, and it was a great pleasure to report to members that we are, the club has never been in a stronger financial position. We've never had so many supporters, in fact setting a Seabull crowd record this year. And of course, we've never inspired so many young children to play basketball, with 25,000 kids through our clinics in the last 2 years alone. Following the AGM, sadly, it should have been a great time of celebration for this club. But sadly, following the AGM, the board met to consider the correspondence that we had received just an hour or two earlier from Basketball Tasmania. Basketball Tasmania were responding, albeit late, to a request from us for clarity around our governance structure, around our opportunity to continue to work in the community, and around sign-off from Basketball Tasmania that we require to play in the new league. We've been very excited about the new league, so it comes as a devastating blow to announce today that the Hobart Chargers will be ceasing operations. We will be withdrawing forthwith, and I've notified the CEO of the league this morning that we will be withdrawing our entry from the new league, and the Hobart Chargers will not take the floor in 2019. We're going to put the club into suspended operations in the hope that this time next year the environment, and particularly the attitude and perhaps the personnel at Basketball Tasmania, have changed so that we can get on and continue to inspire communities and build pathways for kids. I want to make it really clear why we've done this. Essentially, the MOU, which I'm going to give you a copy of today, asks that the directors of the Hobart Chargers board breach their duties as directors. If we as directors were to sign this MOU, effectively we would be breaching our responsibilities, our fiduciary responsibilities. We would also be breaching our responsibilities under the Act to work in good faith and proper purpose. Essentially, this MOU is so restrictive, it cuts off revenue streams, therefore we cannot put the club into financial peril when we've just rescued the club financially. It also, though, explicitly forbids us to work to the purpose in our own constitution. Therefore, under the Act, and we take our responsibilities as directors, just as when I'm a director of a company or whether I'm a director of a not-for-profit, there are fiduciary duties and proper purpose duties of directors that we must not be in breach of, or in fact, we are breaking the law. Effectively, what Basketball Tasmania has done is ask us to break the law to ensure they get control of assets, they get control of all of the inspirational work we've been doing, and we're just not prepared for that to happen.
Without sounding too dramatic, is the blood of the Chargers on the hands of Basketball Tasmania?
Absolutely. Look, when I say to the mums and dads who come to the basketball, bring their kids to basketball every week, and I will get upset. I say to the mums and dads, when the kids ask this Christmas who killed Rex the Rhino, tell them it was Basketball Tasmania Grinch that killed Rex the Rhino, because it's over, it's dead, it's buried, and it's all down to the peak body of the bloody sport we are trying to inspire kids to play.
How long and strenuous was the negotiation process, the back and forth between you guys?
Since the day we won the grand final, we've wanted to get back and start recruiting and building our next season. Unfortunately, it's been lies, it's been obfuscation, it's been delays, it's been misinformation, it's been a whole range of tactics that have eventually resulted in me writing a letter demanding clarification. And unfortunately, when that finally, at the death knell, the clarification comes, it puts us in a position to have to act illegally against the Act we are constituted under to remain in this league.
See sporting teams and sporting clubs in other leagues suspend their operations for a year or drop back competitions for a year, and they don't get back to where they were. Is that the fear with you guys?
Well, it's obviously the greatest fear. I mean, my greatest fear, frankly, is the 25,000 kids who have been through our programs and inspired by our players and our coaches and Rex the Rhino and Game Night to play this great sport. Where do they go?
Is the
Is
case
this
that
brinkmanship? Is this
This is
fire?
not
Is
brinksmanship.
this done?
We have a board meeting scheduled for Friday the 14th at noon, so about this time in a week's time. We've only scheduled it then because we need a little bit of advice on our own constitution to ensure that we do the right thing by our members. At that board meeting, we will be moving a motion, and I will be unanimously supported by my board to suspend the operations of the club forthwith, with a view to looking into the future, a year down the track, 2 years down the track, we don't know. But things have to substantially change about the basketball environment that's created by Basketball Tasmania in this state, and particularly in the south of the state. I'll say this. Basketball Tasmania have been trashing and bullying the south of the state, the community in the south of the state, for years. It is time someone stood up to this bully, and it's time someone said enough is enough, let's get on and grow the game and inspire kids to play. There's never been a better time for basketball. From the NBA to the NBL, kids everywhere. The sport is growing rapidly, and we know it's because of the work that we and our other two sister Seaball clubs have done in recent years that have augmented those other factors. I don't understand a peak body that wants to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. It is like Cricket Tasmania wanting to kill the Hurricanes. For what purpose? We talk about Cricket Australia having culture problems. Mate, they got nothing on this mob. It's a walk in the park compared with these thugs.
Is all this off the Basketball Tasmania's own back, or are they beholden to Basketball Victoria?
I understand that I've notified Basketball Victoria and Basketball Australia today, and I understand in their federated model, effectively Basketball Tasmania are a law unto themselves. Having said that, I want to say a very clear message to the directors, the faceless men and women of Basketball Tasmania, who frankly are either backing this extraordinary strategy to kill the Chargers, or they don't understand what is going on. You have to ask the question of those directors, do they understand their fiduciary duties as directors? Do they understand their duties under the Act? Because if they did understand those, surely they wouldn't ask us to breach ours under the Act. In fact, what they've essentially asked us to do is break the law. At best, that's naive. At worst, it's pure evil.
Just to be clear, were they essentially...
I thought I'd been clear.
Sometimes I ask these questions again just for something's sake. Were they effectively asking you to hand over all your revenue streams to them?
Effectively, they are curtailing every revenue stream we've built over the last 2 years that has saved the club, has paid down $120,000 of debt. Our annual report this year, released last night, showed that we paid down $120,000 of historical debt. For the first time ever, this club is starting in the black at the end of the season. We are starting with money in the bank, and we are starting, following the last game we held at the Deck, with a record crowd of supporters. They are essentially, and I'm very happy to provide the full MOU to you, so you can see it is bizarre what they are asking, and it is outrageous that they are stopping us from going about our business. They are in fact asking us to breach the law when we are required as directors to operate with proper purpose.
Should Chris McCoy be sacked?
Look, here's the thing. I don't see any change coming out of this, and I'm deeply, desperately sad, as you can tell, for our volunteers, for our families. And this is a destructive, terrible thing that's happened to the Chargers, and someone should be blamed for it. Ultimately, it's the board of Basketball Tasmania who must take responsibility for the actions of their executive. Excuse me a sec. That'll make good telly anyway, hey?
I know you're obviously speaking on behalf of the Chargers, but what about the other clubs, the Tawns?
Well, I've notified Janie this morning. I wasn't able to get hold of the president of the Thunder. Obviously, it puts them in a difficult position, the decision we've made. I desperately hope they're able to work their way through and survive. We are not able to.
Are they beholden to the same restrictions?
Well, I believe they've been sent the identical MOU. I don't know whether their boards have considered it yet.
And you guys obviously suspending your operations for a year will have ramifications for teams coming out playing double headers.
Correct.
And all that sort of
Correct. These are questions you'll have to ask the other clubs. Dean Anglin, who's the CEO of the new league, or Nick Honey, the CEO of Basketball Victoria. It is a tragedy, though, that this sport that is going through the roof all over Australia, suddenly has no real strong regional representation. It'll end up, if we're not careful, like the AFL, where there really is just a peak, and the pyramid beneath that peak is a house of cards.
With the Huskies going to split their games between Hobart and Lonnie, we could only probably potentially have 4 or 5 top-line basketball games in the South next year.
Yep. Also, on the Huskies, I just want to make it really clear, and I've written this to members this morning, that this decision has absolutely nothing to do with the entry of the Huskies into the market. We were already, our head of basketball was reporting to us last night about the women's team that we were potentially building in pre-recruitment for. It would have been a championship winning team. And frankly, I want a women's championship. Our men's team necessarily would have become much more of a development squad, and we would have seen those young Tasmanian boys out on the court playing top flight basketball and building their pathways. All of those opportunities to win a women's championship and champion women's sport in this state. The Tawns are still there, and to provide, these a dozen or so young guys coming through the ranks opportunities to get to their next level is dead.
So
and buried.
You obviously won't be taking the court, but clinics still exist, all the stuff in the community, or does that stop too?
Well, look, we have some obligations to fulfil. We also have some obligations to sponsors who have prepaid for next season and so on. So we'll be working through our finances and making sure that we are able to recompensate sponsors and deliver programs where possible.
Did you take legal advice before this decision, or was this?
I don't have to take legal advice. I'm the chairman of 4 proprietary limited companies with assets of over $120 million between them. Been the chairman of a $5 million national charity that operates under the Not-for-Profits Charities Act. I've been a chairman of a incorporated association at the Salamanca Arts Centre for 3 years. I am an experienced chairman. My directors are experienced directors. This is why we care about the good governance of the Chargers, because good governance has delivered all the right results that you guys have seen over the last couple of years. We will not risk our own personal reputations, more to the point our own personal legal status as directors, simply to kowtow to the basketball bureaucrat bullies.
What needs to change and how quickly in order for you to reconsider this, or is this?
We won't be reconsidering, because we tried to create a scenario in our minds at the board meeting last night. Ask ourselves that question: what would need to change in the next 7 days? And we cannot imagine any circumstances under which this will change in the next 7 days.
What did Basketball Victoria say when you called them about your decision?
The message back from Basketball Victoria was, don't announce you're quitting, because if you announce you're quitting, you're out. Well, that's done. The message, I had a long conversation with Dean Anglin, the CEO of the new league, who I'm really sad to say is shaping up as a great league CEO, is doing all the right things in terms of marketing, commercialisation, driving eyeballs to watch this new league, which we were really, really excited to be part of. So I feel for him, because we've created a headache for him, of course, and he's doing a great job.
What about Basketball Australia, or possibly even the Tasmanian government? Could they come up with a solution in either of those?
Well, look, if this were the Labor Party, there'd be a national intervention. If the Tasmanian branch of the Labor Party was behaving so poorly, there would be a national intervention. And maybe that's what's going to be required for Basketball Tasmania.
Have you gone to Basketball Australia though and explained this?
I rang Ned Coaten, the chair of Basketball Australia, this morning, and we've swapped phone messages and emails. We haven't actually talked directly to each other. He clearly understands the situation we're in, but there will be no white knight horse riding in the next 7 days. I hope that for the good of the long term of the sport, they realise that this is its crisis point and that something is done.